Welcome to Today in Prophecy, daily news in 15 minutes or less. It's news with a biblical perspective. So what's going on now? Well, lots of things. Khomeini, Ayatollah, is he dead? Certainly is getting rather interesting to say the news coming out of Iran. Also in the news, NeoNazi Marchers shock Ohio's capital. Greece is in talks with Israel to develop its own Iron Dome. And check this out, first story, Texas Education Board to vote on Bible-infused lessons in public schools. This is today. As of right now, I'm not sure exactly what the outcome is. However, it says the optional curriculum, one of the most sweeping efforts in recent years to bring a Christian perspective to more students, would test the limits of religious instruction in public education. It could also become a model for other states in the administration of President-elect Donald J. Trump, who has promised to champion the conservative Christian movement in his second presidential term. We'll see what the outcome is of this. Some of you may already know. I'm waiting to hear. I haven't heard yet. Excuse me. But one of the things that Trump said he was going to do is turn the education back over to the states. I look at that and I think, okay, we'll see how this goes for Texas, for states like Texas that are red. This will go to a much more conservative direction, no doubt, if the Department of Education is eliminated coming out from the federal government. However, the funds will still go there. And California, a state like California that is blue, the education will be far more extreme in the sense of you can expect more of the gender ideology and the mass evil that's been coming out of the schools in California and some of the other blue states. I live in California. I got to deal with that. I'm supposed to be light in the dark place, so that's what I'll continue to be as long as I'm here. However, when I look to the other states, the red states that will have this opportunity under the new Trump administration, I think it's great for them. Save as many kids as you possibly can. Get rid of the gender lies that are out there and start teaching the boys and girls what they're actually supposed to be taught. And bringing the Bible into schools, people are already up in arms about this, thinking, how could you do such a thing with a state like Texas? Well, guess what? That was the beginning of the United States of America. In fact, before it was even a country. For 200 years, the New England primer was taught in the schools here in the land that became America. In fact, some of the soldiers from the Civil War were actually taught on the New England primer, which included the ABCs coming from the Bible. So when you look at this, are we going back to teaching the Bible again? People are all upset about how bad the education already is in the world or in the United States of America. Well, guess what? God's been kicked out of just about everything. So maybe, just maybe, it seems you bring God back in, you bring the Bible back in, these things will turn around. But no, say the people who are against this thing happening. But we're going to wait and see. And in the meantime, if you're here, if you're in a left state like I am, California, we'll stay the course, we'll do what's right, we'll be light in the dark place, and we'll push back against the nonsense that is taught here in places like this. Well, let's move on from there to Greece. Check this out. Greece in talks with Israel to develop its own Iron Dome. The defenses would likely mimic Israel's Iron Dome and other systems that intercept short and long-range missiles launched during the strikes from its neighbors amid the ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. Greece is keen to invest in its defenses to keep up with its NATO ally and historic rival Turkey, which is also developing its own air defenses despite some improvement in relations. The plan is to create a multi-layer anti-aircraft and anti-drone system, one source said, with knowledge of the issue, told Reuters after a closed-door briefing with Greece Defense Minister Nikos Dendias. As we look at these different things that are taking place right now, Dan Cohen from Dan Cohen TV, many of you know him, also with Real Life with Jack Hibbs, has this post. You can see it right now. Hezbollah firing rockets from Lebanon, and some of them have actually landed on some of the streets right there in the area of Tel Aviv, the shrapnel, I should say. In fact, he has this post right here. Let me read this to you. A bus in the Tel Aviv suburb of Bnei Brak was reportedly hit by falling shrapnel after a Hezbollah-launched ballistic missile was intercepted by the Iron Dome. As of that reporting, 3 people were injured, but many different things are going on. John Martin, I want to thank you, John, for some of your posts that you've been having. Here's the latest. A ceasefire in the north. Lebanon, Hezbollah agreed to U.S. proposal for ceasefire with Israel. So much going on. We also know we're watching the Ukraine and Russia situation as Biden is threatening to escalate that. So we're watching all these different dynamics of things that are taking place. But I want you to think of this, because this is news with a biblical perspective. Micah chapter 7, beginning in verse 7, Micah writes, I will look to the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. And Micah was prophesying to the nation of Israel. And we start to get the understanding of when you look at the prophecies regarding the first time Israel was judged and regarding the last days when God is going to save Israel. And he continues, do not rejoice over me, my enemy. When I fall, I will arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be light to me. What's he saying there? He's talking about Israel, the world rejoicing over the destruction of Israel. Yet he says, he's saying Israel will arise again. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light to me. He continues, I will bear the indignation of the Lord because I have sinned against him until he pleads my case and executes justice for me. He will bring me forth to the light. I will see his righteousness. Then she who is my enemy will see, and the shame will cover her who said to me, where is the Lord your God? My eyes will see her. Now she will be trampled down like mud in the streets. Listen, you can take this personal. You can say, this applies to me. When my enemy comes against me, God will be victorious. God will strengthen me. I will see. He will bring me forth to light. He executes justice for me, and he will deal with my enemies. But ultimately, this is a prophecy about Israel. And he's saying, hey, you may rejoice over the destruction of Israel as many are doing, as they just keep saying, hey, if only Hezbollah could win, if only Iran could win, if only all the anti-Semitism just increases, we can defeat these Jews. Listen, it continues and says, in the day, verse 11, Micah chapter 7, your walls are to be built. In that day, the decree shall go far and wide. In that day, they shall come to you from Assyria and the fortified cities and the fortress river from sea to sea. We think of from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Guess what? Because Jesus is coming back. And indeed, Jesus will be the one who brings real freedom to the entire world, to all those who are his, and he will rule and reign from Jerusalem, but it will not be free from the Jews. And that's what Micah is writing here. In that day, they shall come to you from sea to sea and mountain to mountain, yet the land shall be desolate as it had been because of those who dwell in it and for the fruit of their deeds. Shepherd your people with your staff, the flock with your heritage. Wow, you look at this and you just continue on. And God is saying, listen, Israel's going to have their trouble, but ultimately Israel will rise. They will be a light, and the enemies of Israel will be defeated. As always, we got to go back to the Bible. Well, there's this bit of news coming out of the Rare Foundation. Belgian politician stuns parliament. Anti-Semitism is a fundamental principle of Islam. No kidding. Says here, De Winter, excuse me, let me go here. The Quran is a long succession of anti-Semitic passages, calls for Jew hunts and violence against unbelievers. This is not about a few extremists. It's about an ideology that makes hostility toward Jews a fundamental principle, declared Belgian politician Philippe De Winter of the Vlaams Belang Party. Indeed, he goes on, speaking in the Flemish Parliament, De Winter delivered a blistering critique of the Jew hunt that just took place in the Netherlands and Belgium and the growing anti-Semitism plaguing Europe, attributing to mass immigration and the spread of Islam. His bold stance highlights what many refuse to acknowledge anti-Semitism, deeply rooted in Islamic scripture, is a growing threat to Europe's Jewish communities and cultural identity. Indeed, it is. Many people don't want to admit it, but it is. Check this out. Out of all Israel news, South Africa's Gaza genocide case against Israel is funded by Iran. Gee, what a surprise that is, right? The report, South Africa, Hamas, Iran, and Qatar, the hijacking of the ANC and the International Court of Justice, states that South Africa has developed strategic relationships with Iran's terrorist proxies, including Hamas and Hezbollah, as well as with leading state sponsors of terrorism in Iran and Qatar. In January, the African National Congress, January of 2024, submitted a formal legal case to the ICJ in The Hague, accusing Israel of committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. In May, South Africa claimed that Israel's military operations sought to destroy Palestinian life and wipe them off the face of the earth. I mean, you look at this, and what do we have coming out of the International Court of Justice? Let's condemn all of Israel. Let's condemn their military. Let's condemn Benjamin Netanyahu. They're still trying to bring charges against him and eliminate him. Satan and through his people, his followers, want to destroy the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel is under attack, not just from missiles and rockets, not just physical, and not just through things like this, the political, but ultimately it is spiritual, because the enemy of our souls, Satan, knows that in order to keep Jesus from coming back, or he believes that what he needs to do is eliminate the Jews from the planet, hence from river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In other words, get rid of all the Jews, get them out of Israel. So, because Jesus says, I'm coming back, I'm going to be there, and so will you Jews. That really grinds a whole lot of people, but Jesus said that. Not only that, but also he wants to eliminate from the planet, so there's no chance of Israel ever being inhabited by the Jews. So that's why all of these things are going on. When you see them, Satan, he goes after the geographical location of Israel. He goes after the nation of Israel, and he's going after the Jew. It doesn't matter if the Jew is on the left, doesn't matter if the Jew is on the right, but that is the intent. So that's why we see these things. Then there's this, shouting racial slurs, neo-Nazi marchers shock Ohio's capitals. The marchers appeared to be a number, about a dozen people, but the incentives, or excuse me, not the incentives, the invectives, they shouted through a bullhorn at anyone they passed, and the large swastika symbols they bore seemed to achieve their goal of rattling not just Columbus, but a wider audience online. Videos of the neo-Nazi marchers in the short North neighborhood, a part of the city containing many restaurants and newly built apartments, quickly spread on social media, prompting swift announcements by state and city officials. Again, folks, we may see the anti-Semitism ebb and flow, right? Like birth pains. And I believe we're going to start seeing it subside, because Israel's going to come to a place of believing they are in a place of peace and a place of security. I know that because this is what the Bible teaches. But at that point, at the midpoint of the tribulation period, peace and security is going to be gone. Anti-Semitism is going to break loose as the evil one himself seeks to destroy the Jews. But praise God, Jesus wins, and Jesus comes back just like he promised he would. Final story, get this, Iran secretly elected its next leader, report says. Sources close to Tehran's regime claim Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei elected his second son for the role and may abdicate even before his death. You look at this, is Khomeini already dead? From what I've understood, he's in a coma. I talked about this last night. But listen, we're going to find out if he's really in a coma. How did he elect his second son? All right, start looking at this. What's really going on? Boy, do we live in an interesting world. God bless you guys. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.